Good morning. Today is Friday, November 7th, 2024. I saw this on Facebook a while ago. I don't know who wrote it. Who knew, after all these thousands of years, after Moshe, after Paro, after the first matzah was baked and broken, we would still be saying, "Let my people go." Last week, over the past couple of weeks, in one small neighborhood of Yerushalayim, there were 7 Shiva homes at the same time. Daniel Gordis wrote, "Living here is like living inside a Shiva house." He wrote, describing the mood in Israel, especially over the last couple of weeks. This is a country that is starting to drown in grief and rage. We're bogged down in a war that is more than a year old, with no signs that we're anywhere near the total victory the leaders have promised. With the residents of the north no closer to going home, and with Hamas already rebuilding and recruiting in Gaza. The political realm is also very worrying. Some decisions were made this past week. I don't want to elaborate on this because it's not my topic, but I will just say that there are informed voices in Israel who are not partisan, who say that November 5th, 2024, this past Tuesday, was the worst day of the war since October 7th, 2023, by far. And let me just clarify, having nothing to do with the elections of the United States, just completely within the Israeli political world. Again, I don't want to dwell on that, other than to say that it is difficult times in Israel today. And as I have shared repeatedly throughout this past year, there continues to be incredible strength and beauty and resolve. This is what Rabbi Whitman always stresses when he speaks. It was his theme last night, to talk about that strength and resilience and sacrifice. He told this story. There's a young couple in Israel, married couple, and they had been trying very hard for a long time to get pregnant. He added, he said, today a husband will say, "We're pregnant." He said, it used to be a woman would say, "I'm pregnant." And now people say, "We're pregnant." So there was a couple, they had a baby, and the wife says to the husband, "Do you remember when we were pregnant?" And the husband says, "Of course, I remember." And she says, "Do you remember when we went into labor?" And the husband says, "Yes, I remember." And the wife says, "Do you remember when we were nursing the baby?" And the husband says, Yes, I remember." And the wife says, "Well, we just had a car accident." Okay. So there's this couple in Israel. They've been trying for years to have a baby. Meanwhile, the husband was now at this moment fighting in Gaza. And the wife found out that finally she had become pregnant. And this woman is very well educated in Jewish sources, and she knew the passage of Rambam, Maimonides. The Rambam writes in his Hilchos Melachim, Laws of Kings, which deals with, among other subjects, military morality. The Rambam writes, when a person enters into battle, Yish'an al mikveh Yisrael u'moshio be'tzara, a person should have reliance, confidence on the Savior of Israel, on God. V'yasim nafsho b'kapo, he should v'lo yira v'lo yifached, he should not be afraid, because not only is God with us, God is fighting for us, as Rabbi Rimon explained last night. V'lo yachshov, lo be'ishto v'lo b'banav, and a person when they go into battle should not think about their wife, should not think about their children. Ella yimcha zichronim melibo, but rather he should try to erase his memory of them from his mind at that moment, v'yifnem mikol davar lemilchama, in order to focus completely and exclusively on the battle that he is fighting, on the fact that God is fighting with him. That's what he should do. So this woman knew this paragraph of the Rambam, and she called Rabbi Ramon with the following question. She said, am I allowed to tell my husband that I'm pregnant? On the one hand, it's very big news. It's very important. He's going to be very, very happy. On the other hand, he's going to be thinking about us. He's going to be thinking about me and his future child. And the Rambam says that a person is not supposed to think about their wife and their children when they go into battle. Maybe I'll be distracting him. Okay, so the answer that Rabbi Rimon gave was characteristic for Rabbi Rimon. Tremendously subtle and insightful and sensitive, but that's not my topic this morning. But the comment that Rabbi Rimon made was, can you imagine the strength and the heroism of a woman to hold back, if that's what Jewish law requires, to put the needs of Am Yisrael, of the entire Jewish people on behalf of whom her husband is fighting, to put the needs of Am Yisrael before her own needs. Incredible strength across all of Israeli society. I want to share one more story. This was widely reported in Israel last week. It's almost 2 weeks ago now that Rabbi Avi Goldberg from Yerushalayim fell in battle. And his family was sitting Shiva in Yerushalayim. His was one of the 7 families sitting Shiva in that one neighborhood that I mentioned to you a few minutes ago. It's become a big thing in Israel which politicians visit a Shiva house, especially when the deceased had a little bit higher than normal profile, or there's something particularly noteworthy about it, and it is often unwanted. It is often an unhelpful distraction, but it's a thing in Israel. It's a thing. So when the family of Rabbi Goldberg started sitting Shiva, they put out the following notice in the media. They said the family will accept visits from politicians from across the entire political spectrum. Anybody can come. This also has been an issue. Some people have said that some families have said that they don't want certain politicians to come because they're upset with them. And Again, that's become a whole big thing. It's not my subject. But this family said, everybody can come under one condition. A politician is only allowed to come into the Shiva house if he or she arrives together with another politician from a different political party, from the opposition. Listen to this quote. At a time when the rifts in Israel, in Israeli society are growing, it is important for us to underline the value of unity. Rabbi Avi, together with his wife Rachel, dedicated his life and invested much time and work to connect between parts of Israeli society. This is the proper way to part from him and pay him tribute and accompany him on his final journey. In last week's Torah portion, the Parsha of Noach, we learned about the rainbow. A rainbow in the sky, the Torah tells us, God tells us, is a sign that God remembers his promise that God will never destroy the entire world with flood. And there are many different opinions about the symbolism of a rainbow. One classic commentator who wrote a work named Baal HaKedah, he writes that the idea of a rainbow, how is a rainbow actually formed? It requires a mixture of rain and sunshine. And the symbolism of a rainbow is, so the promise of the rainbow is that no matter how much it rains, there will always be some sunshine also. And the combination will always create the potential for beauty. There is rain, there is difficulty, there is anger, yes. And there is also beauty and strength and sunshine at the same time. Another opinion about the symbolism of the rainbow, and this was also, Rav Rimon did not quote this, but it was also the message that he ended his talk with last night. The opinion of Radak, another of the classic commentators to the Torah. The Radak says the idea of the rainbow as a symbol that God will never destroy the entire world again by flood. The idea is that during the flood, it rained and never stopped until the world was destroyed. And so the rainbow was to say that from now on, the rain will always eventually stop. And there will always be a rainbow at the end. There are difficulties, there are losses, there are terrible tragedies. But we must be confident. God promises us that we will triumph. I shared this with some of you about a year ago. These words, which were written by my cousin who lives in Israel, Joan Crystal, concerning the beginning of this week's Torah portion. God says to Avraham, Lech lecha. Go on this journey to the place that I will show you. This is the beginning of Jewish destiny, Jewish history, Jewish life. And as we pointed out many times before, the phrasing Lech lecha is very unusual. And there are many different commentators who give different explanations of what these words mean, Lech lecha, which literally means go to yourself. How do you go to yourself? My cousin Joan wrote, this is a directive to Abraham, and it is a directive to each of us to go inside ourselves. Lech lecha, go inside yourself. Look inside yourself. Look inside ourselves in order to see our uniqueness, in order to see our challenges, in order to see our capacities, in order to see that by fighting on the side of morality and decency, we can make the world a better place. Go inside yourself to see that we will triumph and that there is a rainbow of sunshine even when it rains. And Shabbos is the perfect time to do that. On Shabbos, we need to try to focus on our strengths, on our successes, on the promises that we have received from God. To try on Shabbos to set aside our worries and our difficulties, to try to set that aside. But I hope that for you and for me and for Am Yisrael, this Shabbos is a Shabbos that we are able to succeed in this, to take in the serene fragrance of Shabbos, and to see our strength, to see our beauty, and to see our success. My friends, I wish you a great day and a beautiful Shabbos, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.